Imagine finding out that the couple staying in the cabin next to yours paid $700 less for the exact same cruise. Same ship, same itinerary, same cabin category. The only difference? They booked at the right time. Cruise pricing isn't like booking a hotel, where rates stay relatively predictable. MSC fares can rise, fall, and change multiple times before a ship even leaves port. And according to experienced passengers on Reddit and Cruise Critic, one of the biggest mistakes first-time cruisers make is assuming they'll automatically get the best deal by either booking as early as possible or waiting until the very last minute. The truth is, both strategies can work, but only under the right circumstances. So in this video, we'll break down how MSC prices actually change, when experienced cruisers recommend booking, when you should absolutely avoid waiting, and the simple strategies that could save you hundreds or even thousands on your next cruise. One of the biggest misconceptions about cruise pricing is that fares simply increase as cabins sell out. Sometimes they do, but not always. MSC uses dynamic pricing, similar to airlines. As demand changes, prices change too. If a sailing is selling faster than expected, prices can climb surprisingly early. If bookings slow down, MSC may release new promotions to stimulate demand. That's why passengers often report seeing the exact same itinerary fluctuate several times over the course of a few months. Some people log into MSC's website every week and notice price swings of several $100s. Others receive promotional emails offering discounts on cruises they had already been watching. This unpredictability is why experienced cruisers rarely book based on a single price. Instead, many of them monitor fares for weeks or even months before making a decision. And there's another important reason prices can vary so much. MSC isn't just selling cabins, it's trying to fill an entire ship. Different cabin categories often sell at different speeds. Balcony cabins might become expensive while inside cabins remain heavily discounted. Or the opposite could happen if families are competing for larger staterooms during school holidays. Understanding that pricing isn't fixed is the first step toward finding a better deal. One of the most common pieces of cruise advice you'll hear is, book as early as possible. But experienced MSC passengers often add an important detail. Book early if you're booking for choice, not necessarily for the absolute lowest price. There's a difference. Booking early usually gives you access to the widest selection of cabins. Want an aft-facing balcony? A specific deck? A midship cabin to minimize motion? Connecting rooms for your family? The earlier you book, the better your chances. This is especially true for newer ships, holiday sailings, and popular itineraries in the Caribbean and Mediterranean. However, many experienced cruisers point out that booking early doesn't always mean paying the lowest fare. MSC frequently launches promotions throughout the year. Sometimes those promotions reduce cruise fares. Other times they include valuable perks like onboard credit, discounted drink packages, Wi-Fi bundles, or reduced deposits. Passengers who booked months earlier occasionally discover that a later promotion offers a better overall value. That's why many experienced cruisers recommend watching not only the ticket price, but also what's included in the fare. A cruise that's $100 more expensive but includes Wi-Fi and a drinks package could actually save you hundreds overall. Now let's talk about the strategy that gets the most attention: waiting until the last minute. You've probably heard stories about someone booking an incredible cruise just a few weeks before departure for an unbelievably low price. And yes, it happens, but passenger experiences suggest it's becoming much less predictable than it used to be. Last-minute deals are usually available only when MSC still has a significant number of cabins left to sell. If demand has been weak, the cruise line may reduce prices to fill the ship. For flexible travelers who don't care which cabin they get, or even which itinerary they sail, this can lead to impressive savings. By the time those discounts appear, many of the best cabin locations are already gone. You may have fewer dining time options. Popular excursions may already be sold out. And airfare, if you need to fly to your departure port, can become dramatically more expensive, wiping out much, or all, of the savings from the cruise itself. Experienced passengers often say that last-minute booking works best for people who live close to major cruise ports like Miami, Barcelona, or Genoa, and can travel with very little notice. For everyone else, it's a gamble. Sometimes you'll win, sometimes the cruise sells out before prices ever drop, and that's where many first-time cruisers get caught. They wait for a bargain that never comes. If you've spent any time browsing cruise forums, you've probably come across the term wave season. For experienced cruisers, it's one of the first times of the year they start seriously looking at future sailings. Wave season typically runs from January through March, when cruise lines compete aggressively for bookings. During this period, MSC often rolls out promotions that combine discounted fares with added perks like onboard credit, drink packages, Wi-Fi bundles, kids sale-free offers, or reduced deposits. But here's where many first-time cruisers get confused. Wave season doesn't automatically mean the lowest price. In many cases, the advertised fare isn't dramatically lower than it was a few months earlier. Instead, the value comes from everything that's included. Imagine two offers. One cruise costs $1,500 with no extras. Another costs $1,650 but includes drinks, Wi-Fi, and onboard credit. At first glance, the cheaper fare seems like the obvious winner, but if you were planning to purchase those extras anyway, the second offer could actually save you several $100s overall. That's why experienced MSC cruisers don't just compare cruise fares, they compare the total vacation cost. Many passengers on Reddit mention that the best deal isn't always the one with the biggest percentage discount, it's the one that includes the perks they would have paid for anyway. Interestingly, experienced cruisers often describe a sweet spot. It's not booking 2 years ahead, and it's not waiting until 2 weeks before departure. Instead, many say they find the best balance by booking roughly 6 to 12 months before sailing. Why? By then, most itineraries are already available, cabin selection is still good, and MSC has usually started releasing meaningful promotions. You also have time to monitor airfare. If flights begin increasing, you can lock those in before they become a bigger expense than the cruise itself. This strategy is especially popular among families. If you're traveling during summer vacation, Christmas, New Year's, Easter, or other school holidays, waiting too long can backfire. Demand for those sailings is naturally higher, the ships fill faster, prices climb earlier, and family-friendly cabins disappear surprisingly quickly. Passengers who booked months in advance frequently mention that they weren't just paying for a lower fare, they were paying for more choices. Sometimes, that's worth even more. One thing many first-time MSC cruisers don't realize is that booking strategy can also depend on where you're sailing. For Caribbean itineraries, particularly those departing from Miami or Port Canaveral, MSC operates many sailings throughout the year. That larger supply sometimes creates more opportunities for promotions, especially during off-peak travel periods. Mediterranean cruises can be a little different. Although MSC has an extensive presence in Europe, the Mediterranean season is heavily concentrated between spring and early autumn, when demand from both European and international travelers is at its highest. Popular itineraries that include destinations like Barcelona, Rome, Naples, Santorini, or the Greek islands often see stronger demand, especially during peak summer months. As a result, passengers planning a Mediterranean cruise during July or August frequently recommend booking earlier rather than hoping for a last-minute price drop. On the other hand, travelers willing to sail during the shoulder seasons, such as April, May, September, or October, often report finding a better combination of lower fares, pleasant weather, and fewer crowds. Here's something many experienced cruisers do that surprises first-timers. They don't stop checking prices after they've booked. Why? Because cruise pricing doesn't necessarily stop changing. Depending on the fare type, promotional terms, and when the booking was made, some passengers have successfully contacted MSC or their travel advisor after noticing a better promotion became available. In some cases, they've received onboard credit. Others have upgraded their cabin for a relatively small difference in price. And occasionally, they've been able to reprice their reservation if the fare rules allowed it. The important lesson isn't that every booking can be adjusted. It's that many experienced cruisers stay informed rather than assuming the first price they paid is the final opportunity for savings. It only takes a few minutes to check periodically, and sometimes those few minutes can translate into meaningful value. One of the smartest observations shared by frequent MSC passengers has nothing to do with the cruise fare itself. They remind first-time cruisers to look beyond the advertised price. A cruise that seems cheaper at first can quickly become more expensive once you add airfare, hotel stays, transfers, drink packages, Wi-Fi, gratuities, specialty dining, shore excursions, and travel insurance. Some travelers become so focused on saving a couple $100s on the cruise that they overlook the much larger expenses surrounding it. The best booking strategy isn't simply finding the lowest cruise fare, it's finding the lowest total vacation cost. And that's an important distinction many experienced cruisers learn only after booking their first cruise. After reading hundreds of reviews from experienced MSC cruisers, one thing becomes clear: very few people regret taking the cruise. They regret how they booked it. One of the biggest mistakes is focusing only on the advertised fare. A cruise might look like an incredible deal, but once you add drink packages, Wi-Fi, gratuities, excursions, airfare, and hotel stays, the final cost can end up far higher than expected. Many first-time cruisers also book the cheapest cabin without considering where it's located. Then, after a week of hearing late-night music from the deck above or feeling more movement at the front of the ship, they realize why cabin location matters. Another common mistake is waiting too long because they're convinced prices will drop. Sometimes they do, but many experienced passengers say they've also watched the opposite happen. The cruise started filling quickly, their preferred cabin category sold out, the fare increased, and suddenly, the waiting strategy ended up costing them more. Perhaps the biggest lesson repeated by seasoned cruisers is this: don't chase the perfect deal. Instead, book a price you're comfortable with, then focus on enjoying the vacation you've been planning. Trying to time the absolute lowest fare is nearly impossible, even for people who cruise several times a year. This is another topic that generates plenty of discussion among experienced cruisers. Some travelers prefer booking directly through MSC because it gives them complete control over their reservation. If they have questions or need to make changes, they deal directly with the cruise line. Others swear by experienced cruise travel advisors. Why? Because many advisors monitor promotions regularly and can sometimes identify offers that provide better overall value than travelers find on their own. In some cases, advisors may also include additional onboard credit, specialty dining, or other incentives through their agency partnerships. Another advantage is having someone else handle itinerary changes, cabin upgrades, or unexpected issues before departure. That said, not all travel advisors specialize in cruises, and not every agency offers additional perks. The key is choosing someone with experience booking MSC sailings, rather than assuming every travel advisor provides the same level of service. For travelers who enjoy researching every detail themselves, booking directly may be the better fit. For those who value expert guidance or simply want someone else to handle the logistics, a knowledgeable cruise advisor can be well worth considering. So, after all the reviews, discussions, and passenger experiences, what strategy appears again and again? It actually isn't very complicated. First, decide when you want to travel, not when you hope prices will be cheapest. Your available vacation dates, preferred weather, and itinerary should come first. Next, start monitoring fares well in advance. If you're traveling during holidays, school breaks, or on one of MSC's newest ships, book earlier. Those sailings tend to fill quickly, and waiting for a major price drop is often a risky gamble. If your schedule is flexible and you don't care about a specific cabin or itinerary, you can afford to watch prices longer and potentially take advantage of a promotion closer to departure. Pay attention to the total package, not just the cruise fare. A deal that includes drinks, Wi-Fi, onboard credit, or a reduced deposit may provide better value than a lower base price with no extras. And finally, once you've booked, don't obsess over every price change. Several experienced cruisers say constantly checking fares after booking can take the excitement out of planning your vacation. If you booked a price you were happy with, secured the cabin you wanted, and stayed within your budget, you've already made a smart decision. After all, the goal isn't to beat every other passenger by $50. The goal is to have an unforgettable cruise. So, when is the best time to book an MSC cruise? If you want the widest selection of cabins, especially for popular itineraries or peak travel seasons, booking early is usually the safest approach. If you're flexible and willing to accept fewer cabin choices, keeping an eye on promotions can sometimes lead to excellent savings. But regardless of when you book, the biggest takeaway from experienced MSC cruisers is this: don't judge a deal by the cruise fare alone. Look at the complete vacation cost. Factor in flights, hotels, transfers, gratuities, drink packages, Wi-Fi, shore excursions, and everything else that contributes to your overall experience. Because in the end, the best booking isn't necessarily the cheapest one. It's the one that gives you the most value for the way you like to travel. If you're considering an older MSC ship because the price looks too good to pass up, don't book just yet. Watch our next video, MSC Fantasia Class, still worth it in 2026. We'll take a closer look at one of MSC's most iconic ship classes, compare it with the line's newer vessels, and find out whether these classics still deliver a great cruise experience, or if it's finally time to spend a little more on something newer. Click on that video now, and we'll see you there. Thanks for watching. Happy cruising!